We came to a place where we should have been 23 years ago. We should have continued.
Tonight, the Wet'suwet'en Nation continues to wait to discuss the proposed agreement made with governments.
So I tell them and I explain to them this is Mohawk land and we're exercising our right that you're not to come through here no more.
We go to Akwesasne Mohawk territory where transport trucks are being told to go around the territory next time.
Where I'm from, we're Inuit, so we're people of the seal. So I prefer working with seal.
They taught me how to do those hats. I've actually sold a number of them.
And a Yellowknife workshop is turning sealskin into high fashion. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. There were high hopes that a proposed agreement between Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and governments would bring some sort of resolution to the pipeline dispute. While the agreement could have major implications for rights and title issues in Canada, there is little being said about the details in the agreement or the pipeline. Lee Wilson has more.
The chiefs and the federal and provincial governments are saying little on the details of the proposed agreement until Wet'suwet'en people can review the document for approval. Wet'suwet'en hereditary chief Akwesasne played a part in the discussions. He described them as positive. In 1997, Akwesasne was one of the translators in the Yellowknife versus BC government case, where the Wet'suwet'en and Gitxsan elders won a historic Supreme Court case that gave them rights and title to their traditional territory. But nearly a quarter of a century later, there's been little done on how to move forward until now.
We came to a place where we should have been 23 years ago. We should have continued. We should have started this talk 23 years ago, right after the decision came down, December 11, 97.
As for the pipeline, which caused blockades across the country in support of Wet'suwet'en, there's been no agreement. Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs still stand in opposition to the pipeline. As for the blockades, Akwesasne says it's not his place to tell other leadership what to do in their territory.
As a chief, I don't have any control over what happens down outside our nation. We didn't go out and tell them put up blockades. That's not our way. What they do, I can't say. I can't tell them to stop.
All Wet'suwet'en will be meeting in a feast hall to go over the proposed deal. The governance system with the feast hall was in place before colonial contact. There have been smaller feast hall meetings to provide clarity to members, but no set date for the large community feast hall meeting to review the document.
We had our first meeting last night, our clan, Laxilio. I can only speak for Laxilio. And we have another one set for March 17th. And we're going to go over the same document.
5 elected Wet'suwet'en bands, which support the Coastal GasLink project, released a statement calling to be heard at the feast hall. Akwesasne says all clan and house members will have their say.
They are clan members. When we're in a feast hall, we don't say that, oh, they're band council from so-and-so. If, for example, if some leaders are sitting on that side, they're get 'em dead. We recognize them as get 'em dead.
Meanwhile, Coastal GasLink is back to work on the pipeline. Premier Horgan said in the BC legislature that the pipeline will be built. Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Whitsett, British Columbia.
After prolonged deliberations, today the Akwesasne Mohawks officially pulled out of their railside camp, relocating their solidarity blockade erected over 3 weeks ago in support of the Wet'suwet'en to a new spot where they're sure to be seen. Lindsay Richardson explains.
Just after 1 p.m., a tractor transporting a still-burning sacred fire led a convoy 100 strong out of the railside camp in Akwesasne, finally answering a question that's lingered in the public mind for days.
We have come to a decision. Our decision is to relocate our fire to the green space in Akwesasne, away from the railway tracks. We want the fire to be visible for every commuter that crosses the Mercier Bridge, to show that we are here to stay for as long as the Wet'suwet'en need us to.
An inspection made at the original site yesterday afternoon by CP Rail officials, supervised by the land defenders, fanned rumors that the 27-day blockade would finally be dismantled, allowing rail service along the Montreal-Toronto corridor to resume as usual. Defenders at the site south of Montreal were adamant about staying put until they received total clarification regarding the proposed agreement between the governments and Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs, even holding a number of meetings over the last week in an attempt to establish consensus, which they say they finally have.
Let this be a strong message and demonstration of good faith to all of Canada. We prefer a peaceful resolution and demand that Indigenous peoples' rights be respected.
In a written statement, Ganawage Grand Chief Joe Norton thanked the land defenders for their dedication, saying the decision will undoubtedly help alleviate pressure. Despite certain politicians losing their composure and certain media commentators fanning the flames of hatred, Norton wrote, the land defenders never wavered in their message of support for their Wet'suwet'en brethren. The original site was reinforced last week after Premier François Legault amplified fears of confrontation by alleging the Mohawks were heavily armed.
There are some offensive guns that are on the reserve.
In response, Pierre Vieilleux, the president of the Association of Provincial Police Officers, said in a letter he strongly recommended deploying a military tactical team to assist ahead of the dismantling, a suggestion the Prime Minister rebuffed while speaking Wednesday afternoon.
Our focus is very much on resolving this peacefully for the long term. But as I've said many times, I do not think it is ever appropriate to send the military against Canadian citizens.
The focus, according to Trudeau, remains on dialogue and prevention.
Now, as the former camp behind me stands vacant, it's unclear how the Mohawks' decision here today will impact the other ongoing rail blockades like the one in Listuguj. But for the moment, the Mohawks say that they are not giving up their fight. They're just moving it to a different location. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Ganawage, Mohawk Territory.
And we can tell you that the railroad blockade in Listuguj is also said to be coming down now. We hope to have more on that story tomorrow. In the latest development on the Mohawk Territory, Akwesasne near Cornwall, Ontario, Mohawk warriors are staging a peaceful act of solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en land defenders. Jamie Pashigumskum spoke with one of the organizers.
I'm standing here on Akwesasne Mohawk territory, and behind me is the U.S.-Canada border. Now, the Mohawks are not calling this a protest, but a unity fire. They say they are in support of the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs, and in fact, the main sign has been up for over a month. But they say they're also here to bring awareness to the rights of Indigenous people in their community and across Canada. Stacey Boots says since yesterday, they've been asking all transport trucks carrying goods across the border not to come through Akwesasne.
I'm telling them, hello, you know, you're here on my territory. You're here on my territory, Mohawk Nation. And I'd expect them to be respectful, as I am. So I tell them and I explain to them this is Mohawk land and we're exercising our right that you're not to come through here no more. You're welcome right now to go through, but next time, go around. You know now that it's we're exercising our rights, and respectfully respect our rights, and go around, and you can do your commerce somewhere else, but not here.
At the moment, there's a meeting of supporters going on to figure out the next step. Boots said this is a peaceful act, and for now, they are letting transports through the territory, but that could change if the transport trucks continue to pass through Akwesasne. Boots said the Mohawks are standing strong on their lands, and the unity fire will remain here indefinitely. Jamie Pashigumskum, APTN National News, Akwesasne.
Road and rail blockades springing up across the country in recent weeks may seem like spontaneous reactions to current events, but organizers have been laying the blueprint for this kind of coordinated national action for a long time. Ben Milger from CTV brings us more.
Native people could shut this whole country down militarily.
At a gathering in Ottawa a year ago, Kanahus Manuel planted the seeds for the recent coast-to-coast movement targeting the economy.
The Power Shift Conference in Ottawa, I found it very useful to go to. It's really important to connect with all the young people, the ones that are active on the front lines out there in Canada. For our environment, for climate change, for Indigenous sovereignty.
The February 2019 Power Shift Conference at Ottawa U featured workshops in resisting arrest, scouting locations, and blockading.
We're a gathering of young people across the country to tackle the climate crisis.
At least 7 of the speakers have ties to 350 Canada, an offshoot of the American environmental group 350.org. In its most recent financial statements, the U.S.-based nonprofit shows over $19 million in grants and contributions for 2018, with $16.7 million of that coming from just 3 unnamed donors. As Wet'suwet'en solidarity protests hit their peak, 350 Canada tweeted a video highlighting Manuel's keynote at Power Shift.
It's always been about these transportation corridors.
While people on the front lines echoed her words.
We are shutting Canada down.
None of the people tied to 350 Canada would agree to an interview, but here is one of them, Atiya Jafar, coordinating with Wet'suwet'en solidarity organizer Natalie Knight at a march in Vancouver. According to Manuel, we can expect to see more of this coordination, bringing together Indigenous and environmental groups.
Indigenous people are at the forefront of combating these climate change. We're the first to be impacted, so you'll see us on the front lines. We'll be the first face you see, but it's impacting all of us.
She promises things will only get more heated as groups continue to share techniques and strategies with government and industry in their crosshairs. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
In Winnipeg, NDP MP Leah Gazan publicly introduced her private member's bill for the first time. Bill C-232, or the Climate Emergency Action Act, calls on the federal government to recognize a safe, clean and healthy environment as a human right. The bill went through its first reading and was seconded at the end of February. The act outlines the need for Canada to follow through on its commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. During a press conference announcing the bill, Gazan said the government needs to divest from fossil fuels and reinvest in a green economy. The bill also calls for the development of a climate emergency action framework in consultation with Indigenous peoples.
We must develop this framework. This proposed development of the Climate Action Plan must be done in consultation, real consultation, with Indigenous peoples and civil society in a manner that respects human rights of free, prior and informed consent, and the right to self-determination of Indigenous peoples.
Time for a quick break, but stick around. You're not going to want to miss a glimpse at all of the Sealskin products coming up in our next story. Here's a look at Friday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, +3 under sunny skies for Halifax, -3 in Charlottetown. 10 below in Nain with snow, -16 and snow in Inukjuak. 1 below with snow for Montreal, -9 under sunny skies in Chibougamau. +2 and snow for Toronto, +1 with flurries in Ottawa. 0 and sunny in Thunder Bay, a rain-snow mix, and 0 for Sioux Lookout. -11 with snow for Churchill, +2 in Norway House and God's Lake. 0s for Winnipeg and Gimli, +6 in Dauphin. 11 above in Regina and Estevan, +15 for Swift Current, +2 in Meadow Lake, 5 above under sunny skies in Laurent. Welcome back. Northern women are well known for their beading and sewing skills, but now 8 artists are learning how to take their works to the next level to promote a sustainable fur industry. Our reporter Charlotte Mort-Jacobs spoke with some of the participants who took part in a sealskin workshop and has more in this story.
Darcy taught me how to do those hats. I've actually sold a number of them. That's all.
Jerry Sharp was only 9 years old when she sold her first sealskin upik to the co-op for a bag of chips. She's come a long way.
Where I'm from, we're Natilinuta, so we're people of the seal. So I prefer working with seal.
The level of skill here is evident. And this week in Yellowknife, 8 artisans are taking part in a multi-day celebration workshop. They're refining their sewing skills to create high-quality products for local markets. Funded by the Northwest Territories government, the workshop is led by renowned Dene designer Darcy Moses.
Learning different techniques on making like a nice marketable product and finishing techniques so that their work is professionally finished, as opposed to like raw cement allowances. Or
for Sharp, learning alongside other Indigenous women sewing feels natural.
My purse and the beadwork, I'd already had the beadwork done. So I had 3 different pieces, so I asked everybody what they thought. And then the idea of doing that, everybody gave me a little bit of information. So
they are making sealskin items like bags, hats, and belts, which are affordable and easy to produce in a local market like Yellowknife. It's Susie Nakashuk-Zettler's second year participating.
Like last year I was kind of rushing and I was too excited. So we have more confidence now to sew anything.
Zettler says she's excited to sell sealskin hats.
Like I'm learning to sell my art because I was undervaluing my art because the way, maybe how I grew up, like everything was given to people that needed it. And I mean, like, you need mitts or you need jackets.
And why did you put this through? The creations take hours to make and a lot of patience. But it's the cultural exchange you can't put a price on.
Any type of workshop is there's going to be conversation about culture and what things we're like and how things are caught and what you do with things. So that conversation happens naturally.
Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Looks like there were some big laughs at that event. I'd like to see what Charlotte made. Time for a quick break, but first a preview of tonight's political roundup from Ottawa.
Hello, I'm Todd Lamoran, and here's what we'll have for you on Nation to Nation. Our panel of non-political experts is in studio. One of the points made is that jobs once again trumps Indigenous rights, and that the Trudeau government cared more about a seat at the UN Security Council than what was happening back at home. As well, I talked to Alex Neve. After 20 years, he's stepping down as Secretary General of Amnesty International. One of his highlights, the work with stakeholders to bring the violence against Indigenous women to light. That's coming up right after the national news.
Here's the rest of Friday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. -9 in Grand Prairie, -1 for Fort McMurray, 16 above in Medicine Hat, +14 for Lethbridge, +8 with showers in Vancouver, 13 above in Kamloops, -20 in Fort Nelson, +4 with snow for Smithers, -31 in Old Crow, 21 below for Rock River. 18 below and snow for Fort Liard and Trout Lake, -26 in Yellowknife, -35 for Sax Harbor, 32 below in Paulatuck, 36 below for Cambridge Bay, -33 and snow in Baker Lake, 35 below for Resolute, -38 in Joe Haven. Welcome back. Canada's largest Inuit community might not even be in the north. Ottawa's growing Inuit population has them neck and neck with the Iqaluit for most Inuit. Our Iqaluit video journalist Ken Driscoll went to Ottawa to find out how hard is it for Inuit to move south. Here's an encore presentation of that story.
If you're an Inuk living in Ottawa, you probably know this place. Tunga Suvingat Inuit, known as TI, is the Ottawa-based clearinghouse for all things Inuit. They run 20 different programs for the many Inuit who live in Ottawa. How many? The census claims there's only 1,280 Inuit living in Ottawa-Gatineau. TI says that number's at least 3,700, maybe as many as 6,000. There are almost 4,000 Inuit in Iqaluit, 28,000 in all of Nunavut. Amanda Killabuck is TI's Director of Employment and Education. She's been in Ottawa for 3 years, but still misses some things from home.
The clean air, the fresh, crisp air, especially around this time of year, just when the snowfall just comes down. That's what I miss.
Ottawa has long held a special connection for Nunavummiut on Baffin Island. It's the first stop on a plane going south.
Well, it's one of the few direct flights, right? Montreal's the other, which also has a large Inuit population. But a lot of people come here for medical, and a lot of times it's extended medical. And so they have to stay here for whether it's cancer treatment or dialysis or any other specialized services that they can't get in Nunavut. Then we have students that come down for post-secondary. We have families that come down for that they need specialized services, like for learning supports, autism. We also have a lot of wards of the government, so through group homes and other institutions.
Here, TI provides everything from prenatal care to education and skills training. Getting off the plane in Ottawa can be a real disorienting experience, according to Killabuck.
I think it's culture shock, especially if you're not from Iqaluit and you're from a smaller community and you come and it's just learning the transit system, even parking lots. I know when I took my kids for vacation, they just run around because they think that the cars will see them, didn't understand the concept of sidewalks, or if you're really in a smaller community, car seats.
Across the city, there's another group of Inuit who have recently moved to Ottawa. The Nunavut Civic Nuksavut School is like a grade 13 program for Nunavut Inuit high school graduates. They spend a year far away from home, learning about home while living in Ottawa. Moving here can also be a shock.
There's really no comparison, because Cambridge Bay is completely different. It's really small. Compared to here, you could probably fit my whole community on one block. That's how small Cambridge Bay is.
I come from a really small town, so Inuit are the majority, and it's so diverse here. There's all different kinds of people from all over the world, and it's just so like diverse.
Just like any Inuk who packs up and heads to the city, these students faced major change.
Oh, it was the whole experience, but it's still confusing to me. Moving here at 17. Moving out of my home environment or to a place where I don't really know well and I don't know a lot of people, it's pretty nerve-wracking, and it can get nervous at times, but there's a really good support system here.
Nunavut has Canada's youngest and fastest growing population. The number of Inuit in Ottawa isn't going down. It's going up with every flight that lands from Iqaluit. More and more Inuit are leaving the north for the cheaper prices and warmer weather of the south. And Ottawa is usually the first stop. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Ottawa.
That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. Stay up to date with the latest by downloading the APTN News app. Stick around, Nation to Nation, with Todd Lamoran's next. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow.